there's so many, problems and areas that you can address, particularly with insurance. How do you really kind of focus down on a certain area? I know things like horizontal, vertical can be a little bit loaded of words and terminology, but I'm curious to how you guys kind of picked your path in your own segment. Maybe John, we could stick with you for now.
Sure. It's a big question. So really for us, we've just seen this play out with the clients we serve when we talk to them about their experience with the traditional channels of insurance. And it takes them 8 to 12 weeks to get insurance. And oftentimes that process starts with, hey, fill out these, fillable PDF applications. And by the way, type out your address 18 times. Tell us how many employees you have 16 times. For us, first application we got back in 2018 and the broker sends it to us. First questions are, what's your roof type? What's your construction type? Are there sprinklers in your building? All this stuff. And we had 4 laptops at the time. That was it. So, really for us, it's that pain point with the customer. And, I think one of the things we do differently, and by the way, prior to Vouch, I spent 20 plus years in what's best characterized as the traditional commercial P&C space. My observation is that the traditional commercial P&C space starts with the question of how can we make more underwriting profit? At Vouch, we start with the question of how can we deliver a better experience and a better product to the client? Then we'll ask, okay, can we make money at it at the same time? We still have to ask that question, but just that simple orientation of starting with the question of what's best for the end client creates some pretty profound differences in just how we approach the problem and come up with solutions. So big question. I'm just barely getting at the surface of it here, but I'll stop there.
Thank you, John. Yeah, it's interesting thinking about your customer first. And Jen, I know you kind of characterize yourself and Agent Sync in part of these discussions being a little bit of the odd person out. So I'm wondering how you approach your clientele a little different. You actually work with a lot of the InsurTech organizations. So I'm wondering how you kind of fit into that space and start thinking about your customers.
Yeah, so I actually would echo John in terms of thinking about orientation. And for me, coming into this space, I had not been in insurance. I don't have the 20 years of seeing how it was done. But what I had coming in was a lot of experience of thinking about how people navigate internal applications and what is successful or not successful for that individual. And so when we built Agent Sync, we actually initially thought of it as what is the agent experience? So similarly, what is the agent going through? What is the customer going through? Why are they going through it? What is the obligation we need to solve? And then how do we think about improving that experience, which also improves the experience for the licensing administration team? It's a knock-on, it's a positive overall, but a reorientation on how do we think about the workflows, and then making sure that we're not getting over our skis and thinking about the workflow in the wrong way. But once we started to think about that orientation piece and think about who's going through it, how they're experiencing it, how do we up-level that efficiency, and not think so much about regulatory compliance. It's an incredibly important part of this, but business efficiency for the agent or for the company itself is actually what's really critical. And in being efficient with that, you can have great regulatory compliance outcomes. So we really thought about that of, for every step along the way, what is the person who's going through the flow? I like you said, like 15, we don't want you to fill something out 15 times. You don't want you to have to revisit it over and over. What are the patterns that have been put in place today that are preventing agents from onboarding in a seamless way and are causing a lot of challenges internally to get someone to the right end state? And so that was a fun orientation for me to start with. We also, I think I always say naively, like I did not appreciate in the early days how different insurance is across the industry. So we started looking at what the common problems are and built a product that thought about everyone in that space, life, health, property, casualty. As we're scaling up, we understand that there are different, and there's more than that, right? Obviously personal lines and surplus, and we're extending into those, but there's a common thread of challenge that everyone's facing. And then there are particular set of nuances for each area that we're going to tackle. But it was really just orienting on, can we talk about that problem statement? Can we think about the agent as the user? And then from improving their workflow, what does that have as a knock-on effect for the rest of the organization?
Great. Alex, I'm wondering if we can maybe expand a little bit on Jen's thought on common threads versus particular to your area. I know PathPoint specializes quite a bit, so I'm wondering if you found that as well, the common threads versus particular to your space.
Yeah, I think it's a similar blueprint to John and Jen in that things really started to click for PathPoint when you anchored on the client experience. And for us, that's independent insurance agents that are looking for a less painful alternative to access the wholesale market. So we're very, we're very focused on the E&S market. And we started this business with a very carrier-centric view of the world. John mentioned underwriting profit. They also care about commissions too, and lowering those. And so you can start with that problem of how do you lower commissions in the wholesale channel. They're quite expensive. They're quite high, 20 to 30%, sometimes more on the dollar. But that's just an idea. Like when we really got into it with agents around the country, and typically more their back office, their CSRs and account managers, and like really tuned our company culture to appreciate their pain points in getting like a $3,000 policy, and it takes like 28 days when it could take 4 hours. Then you start from there and kind of build out. For us, we're not trying to build a better product for just that specific segment. We're trying to leverage existing top tier underwriting organizations and product and help them just digitize the distribution piece, which is bringing it to that user in a very self-service, user-friendly way. And in excess and surplus lines, that's 5 to 10 years behind the admitted commercial line space. So when we oriented there, it easier said than done, but that's when things start to click, I think.